As you'll see in the intro, this is what we're going to be building in this video. So here is how you build it. So I'm in my index.html file with little to no CSS added. I've just added some styling to the body, including the font family, and then the section tag with 100 viewport width and 100 viewport height to take the entire viewport, and then everything at the center using display flex. And that's pretty much what we have. Since the body doesn't have any content, the browser renders nothing apart from the background color. Let's add some content to the body, and then let's render it. So we need 3 sections. The first one's going to be intro. The second one's going to be container. Third one's going to be the outro. The only difference the container makes is that the container has an image. On top of that, we have the text. So for all the text, we use this text block div or text blocks class, within which we have a p tag with the actual content or the text, which has this data attribute of data color, which we're going to be grabbing onto and then setting the same color as the background of those text blocks that you see. I'm going to be doing the same for the container as well as for the outro. Let's save and let's see. So this is how it renders. Since we're using instrument serif, the fonts are a bit smaller. So we're going to be needing to increase the font size. But before that, let's add the background image as well as the overlay. So we have these 2 divs added. And yeah, the image is basically covering the entire screen. Let's add some styling and make it look good. So the text block would have a max width of 600 pixels with everything aligned to the center using display flex. The p tag within the text block would have a font size that will have the clamp function, would take in 1.75 3 viewport height and 2.75 rem. And then we have font weight, some line height, and then this is the default color. Let's save, and we can't see anything apart from this one getting rendered here. Okay. Let's add some styling to the container. Now the container would have position relative with overflow hidden, since we don't want the image to bleed, since we're going to be absolutely placing that. Overlay. So the next thing that we do is we target the background image. We also position it absolutely. And then we basically let it take the entire width and height, background, object fit as cover, object position as center, and then some filter to make it blend well. And then we take the container and then we target the overlay, add an overlay on top of it, and then just place the text block on top with higher Z index, and then give the color of the text block as white. With that, we have all the 3 sections ready. That's the bare minimum CSS that you need to get these sections looking like this. Now, let's add our JavaScript. But before that, we need some classes. First one is the line class. This line class is going to be added to each individual line that we see here. Each individual line would be broken down into separate divs, and each div would have a class of line. Now this line would have position relative and display as inline block. Now keep in mind that you need to add here exclamation important to basically add higher proceeding order onto this styling, because we're going to be using GSAP's SplitText plugin, with which we're going to be breaking each paragraph sections or lines, and then each line has the display block by default. So when you need to override it, you need to add this important, and that's pretty much what you need for the line. Now this is going to be the div that will contain the entire text or the entire line, but then we need another div to have the block or the actual box. So for that, we're going to be having this line box. We're going to be setting it position absolute with top 0, width and height 2% extra, since the text doesn't bleed out from left or right. So we're going to be adding some extra 2% of width and height. And then we're going to be aligning it with -1% of left, because we're going to be basically using the extra 2%, one on the left side, one on the right side. So we're going to be centering it using left -1%. Now when I save, we can't really see here anything because these haven't really haven't really gotten added, which will get added once we start adding our GSAP. That's pretty much what we need. Let's start with the script tag. I'm just going to be quickly disabling the cursor. So here we have the script tag. Now, first thing that we do is we wait for DOM content loaded. Either you use this or you can just use the load event listener, but I'm just going to be using this for this. And then I'm just going to be quickly pasting in the code from Lenis that basically binds your GSAP and ScrollTrigger along with the scroll, giving you that smooth scrolling experience. Then we create this text animate function. This is the function that will basically add the animation to your text. It takes in the text, and then what we do is we grab the color from this text. Remember, we have the data attribute set here. So this is what it does. It basically grabs the data attribute from there. And then we use the GSAP's SplitText plugin. So we take the text, we split it. Now, since we want this to split in lines, so we have type as lines, and then each line needs to have this class of line. You can add whatever class name that you want. I'm just going to be calling it line just so that it makes it easier for you guys to understand. Let's save, and let's also add two arrays, so line text and line box. And to get this working, let's first grab onto all the different p tags inside of the text block and then run a for each. And then we take for each text that we have, we call this method or function and pass in the actual text. Let's save. And now we don't see any changes, but if I were to inspect, you can see clearly that, give me a minute. Okay. As you can see now, each line appears to be in a separate line class div. So our method is working properly. As you can see here, we have this text, we have this property of display block. This is the default styling. So we have overridden it using display in inline block. Now, if I were to remove this important, you would see that, shit, why can't I change it? Okay. As you can see, this got overridden by the block, and now they're again back to block. The reason for not having it block is because now you'd see the width of the second line is complete, but we don't want it to take the entire width. We want only to take the width that is assigned or taken by the actual text, basically fit content and not more than that. So I'm just going to be refreshing and then bringing back it to how it was. So yeah, our method is working fine. Now we need to add these classes. I mean, this line box, as well as one more class to hold the actual text within. So what we do is we have this split line. So we basically grabbed all the different text, we separated them in lines, and now we run a for each individual lines. So for each line that we have, what we do is we create two divs. First is a line text to hold the text, the actual text, and then the line box, which is the actual box that basically covers it. So the line text, we add a class list of line text to it, and then what we do is we get the inner HTML and then save it there. Basically the content, we add it there. And then for the line box, what we do is we add the class list of line box to it. And then what we do is we grab the line, we remove all the inner HTML that it had, we append the child line text as well as the line box. And now when we save, if I were to refresh, you would see that the line div has this line text, which has the actual text, and then line box, which is taking 2% of extra width and height, absolutely placed. As you can see, that is what is happening here. Now, all we got to do is we need to animate it. So first thing that we do is when this starts off, we want to have the line text have no opacity. Since you have seen in the intro, we have a blank screen with just background or image and then nothing else. And then the divs or the box basically start filling the screen, and then the text basically appears. So we have the text as opacity 0 initially. The line box would initially be having scale x to 0, meaning horizontally we don't don't scale it, so it's going to be invisible. And then the way we want this to animate is start from left and go to right. So we're going to be having transform origin as left center. And then the background color of this is going to be the color that we have passed in the data attribute, which we're already grabbing here. And let's save. And so as you can see, all of this is gone. All these are hidden now. So yeah. Now to see if the line box is actually working, we can just remove this. And as you can see, the line boxes are getting rendered properly. Okay. Now the next thing that we do is we had these two arrays created. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing line text in the line text array and then line boxes in the line boxes array. So these two arrays going to be helping us when we animate each individual text or boxes. Now we set a variable for the duration. So each animation would run for 0.35 seconds. By each, I mean the entire animation of a box filling and then finishing. We create a GSAP timeline. Now this GSAP timeline takes in ScrollTrigger, and then the triggering point for this is the section that contains the text. So what we do is we look at the text and we look at the closest section. Now in this case, for the closest section would be its parent. So the parent that holds the text becomes the triggering point. And then the animation starts when the section reaches 50% of the screen. So then we start this GSAP animation. Now, the animation has three phases. The first phase is the empty screen that you see, and then the box basically come in and then fill the entire screen. So the first phase is filling the entire screen with the boxes. So we have initially it was set to 0. So we want this to fill the entire screen. So we have scale x to 1. The duration of this is going to be same as this. And then we need to have the staggered, which basically means that don't start all the boxes at the same time. Let the first one end and then start the second one, and then when the second one ends, go to the third one, so on and so forth. And then we get this ease, which is the power to in out. Let's save. As you can see, this is working fine. Looks good. Now we target the line text, and then once these fill, we get our line text and make it have opacity 1. Now, even though we make these opacity 1, we can't really see. The reason for that is because the text are hidden underneath, so we won't be able to actually see, but we will be seeing them once we start this. So now we come to the third phase, which is having the line boxes hide and reveal the actual text. So we have this as scale x1. We'll again take it to scale 0. Transform origin, this time we want it to have right and center as the transform origin, and then same duration, stagger and ease. Let's save, and looks good. So yeah, that's it for this video. Hope this was fun. The source code as well as the live link is in the description, so you guys can go and check it out. So if you guys are new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe and turn the notifications bell on, just so that you remain notified whenever I upload a new video. So yeah, that's it for this video. Meet you guys in the next. Till then, bye bye, take care, and peace.